This video presentation is about completing the square when the coefficient is not equal to 1, it's not equal to 1, and we're going to end up using fractions. All right, this one, just to make it easy, I left it in the proper form. First thing we're going to do is divide by 2. Divide by 2, I'm going to put a 1 here. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So I have x squared plus 1/2 x plus something equals 2 plus something. Now, this is probably the trickiest part. Now, you may want to watch this video a second time when we're done, but you take half of a half. And the easiest way to take half, well, let's look at 6. Half of 6, we know that's 3. But if we multiply 6 by a half, we get 3. Taking half of something means multiplying by 1/2. So our coefficient of the linear term is 1/2. I take half of that, I multiply that number, whatever it is, by 1/2, gives me 1/4, and then I square 1/4, equals 1/16. 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 4 is 16, so I add 1/16 to both sides. All right. Now, I factor the left. And it's 1/4. This number is always the number that goes over there. All right. Think about all the problems you did yesterday. Take a look at them. The number that you squared is what goes here, equals 2 over 1. And if I multiply that, I'm going to do this in a different color. 2 over 1 times 16 times 16. Common denominator, of course, is going to be 16. And I get 2 times 16 is 32 plus 1. I get 33/16. And then I take the square root of both sides. Square root plus minus square root. And I talked about this, I think, in most of the classes yesterday. But make sure I'm taking the square root of everything, that everything fits in the fraction. All right? Everything. And I end up then with x plus 1/4. Oops. X plus 1/4 equals plus or minus the square root of 33 over square root of 16 is 4. And again, here the entire fraction is clearly inside the radical. Here the radical is clearly just in the numerator. Be extremely careful. All right, now I subtract 1/4, subtract 1/4, and I get x equals -1, I have a common denominator, -1 plus or minus the square root of 33 all over 4. And that's my answer. -1 plus or minus square root of 33 all over 4. No different than yesterday. but we just had to take half of a fraction. Not really a big deal. All right, our next example is 4x squared minus 12x plus 1 equals 0. All right, I'm going to subtract 1, and I get 4x squared minus 12x equals negative 1. And then I have to get rid of the coefficient. So I divide by 4, and I divide by 4. I end up with x squared minus 3x plus something equals negative 1/4 plus something. Remember, before you do the half of the linear coefficient and square it, you must get this coefficient here to a 1. Right here. The leading coefficient must be 1. All right. Then I take half of 3. This is really easy. Divided by 2. And I square it. 3 times 3, 9. 2 times 2, 4. So I add 9/4 to both sides. And I factor the left, x minus 3/2. And just like I said on the last example, this number right here that gets squared goes here. And because this is a minus, it goes here. And people were having trouble with that yesterday. All right. Equals, I have common denominators. Lucky me, 8/4, which is 2. Then I take the square root of both sides, plus minus the square root, and I end up with x minus 3/2 equals plus or minus the square root of 2. And you know what? I'm going to leave this. I'm going to erase that. And I'm going to leave this as plus or minus the square root of 8 over 2. Why did I do that? Well, I see that I have a denominator of 2 right here. My common denominator is going to be 2. I might as well just leave this like this. And then I add 3/2 to both sides. And I get x equals 3, I have a common denominator, plus or minus square root of 8. Hopefully you can do this without writing it down, but 8 is 4 times 2, square root of 4 is 2, square root of 2, all over 2. And I'm done. 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 2, all over 2. Now, you cannot cancel these 2's. This 2 and this 2 cannot cancel because you can't cancel with the 3. In order to simplify this, all 3 must simplify. And that is a huge problem for some students. Be very, very aware. If you can't cancel all 3 places, you cancel nowhere. Nowhere at all. All right, that's it. We're done. I kept this at 10 minutes. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.